making sure the stream's popping up everywhere before I start actually going into stuff as it happens. Not sure how long I'm going to stream for. Not sure how much there's going to be to talk about. A lot of transactions, a lot of trades, trades. A lot of free agents signing. I just saw Teravainen is probably going back to Chicago. I see Tyler Bertuzzi's going to Chicago. Montour to Seattle. The news is coming hard and fast, so you got to be locked in. You got to be ready to figure out what's going to happen. And I'm going to focus mostly on the Rangers' perspective on free agency today because, frankly, the Oilers, their job is a lot simpler. You know, whether you want to keep Henrique, you want to keep Warren Fogle, those types of guys, they're going to be there. Whereas the Rangers, I don't know if the Rangers are waiting for clarity on the Trouba situation before they're able to rectify what their goal is. I was talking about this last night. One of my friends I met up with at Forbidden Door. Hypothetically speaking, because the Rangers currently don't have Schneider or Lindgren under contract, they could offer the big ticket contract to a Marcia Show or a Stamkos. Figure out the Trouba thing later because you're allowed to go over the salary cap by 10% in the offseason. And once you were able to figure out what you were doing with Trouba, then you would be able to take care of Schneider and Lindgren. But the Rangers have options. But until they find a way to move Trouba, I know Larry Brooks wrote an article late last night about midnight, that based on what's out there, the Rangers have made their decision. They're not bringing Jacob Trouba back next year. Things always change, as the insiders love to remind us. Situations are fluid, things change, but for the most part, Sean Monahan, interest in Columbus. Okay, I could see that there. That makes sense. But in the purpose of talking about the Rangers, until they figure out what the deal is with Trouba, it's going to be hard to do anything because you look at the money where it is. They're sitting on about $12.5 million in cap space right now. They could still move Kakko. That makes another like 2.5. That gets you up to 14. You move Trouba, that gets you over 20. Then you have options. You could look at a Marcia Show, a Stamkos, or you could do something like Henrique. And I hate to just list off guys from the Oilers, but you could do him. You do Warren Fogle. There's options. I know the the Rangers signed Sam Carrick. Carrick's fine. He's nothing special. He'll be the fourth line center next year. Very good chance he doesn't even end up on the team midway through the season, late through the season. Very well could be a Nick Bonino type guy. But he wasn't atrocious for the Oilers. He got in, I want to say, 10 or 11 playoff games for them on their road to the Stanley Cup, Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final. Functional player. I don't expect a whole lot, but if he's the fourth line center, that's fine. But as we all know, the Rangers offseason was not going to be defined by who they got to play fourth line center to replace Barclay Goodrow. Until they figure out first line right wing and second pair defensemen, we have questions. And Schneider very well could be the 2 right D next year, and that's probably fine. I'm still not as sold on Schneider as a lot of other people. I'll probably do a Schneider player evaluation at some point this week on stream just to kind of walk you through where I'm at with him, because I think Schneider is a reasonably physically talented player. He skates all right. He's big. He's able to throw hits. He's got okay puck skills in the offensive zone, even if he can't move the puck particularly well in his own end. But him and Miller is a very volatile second pair. And you don't, in an ideal world, that second defensive pair is going to be your shutdown group. They're going to get the hard matchups. They're going to play the other team's best players. Yeah, Chris Johnston, the Blackhawks will also be signing Teuvo Teravainen. Nice. Would you trade Kadri if Calgary retains 50%? Okay, let's entertain this. Let's look. Is today the last day Cap Friendly still exists? Yes, it is. Okay. So let's go over to Calgary Flames. Close that ad because no free advertising. Share screen. Cap Friendly. Okay. Let's go down here. You are looking at Kadri, $7 million per season, and I want to say it's 5 more years. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is this upcoming season that starts in October. If the Flames retained half and got this number down to $3.5 million per season, I think there's a good chance you're good with that these first 2 years. And then after that, even if he does, got to sneeze, hang on. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. Even if Kadri goes down to 3.5, you're probably okay with that. I got to sneeze again. Hang on. God. It's rough out here for your allergy, but if I die on stream, that's okay. That's good content. Excuse me about that. But you get Kadri down to 3.5, and then you're ostensibly paying him what the Rangers were paying Barclay Goodrow the last 2 years to play fourth line center. Now, I don't know if Kadri wants to move. I think that was the last I had read or heard from the Calgary end of things, is that they want to keep some of those veteran guys, him, Backlund, Coleman, Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, during this transitionary period where the team's not going to be too good. Because as all the old heads will tell you, as you incorporate young players into your team, you want veterans. You want guys who have experience to kind of usher them along through the development process. And I think Kadri's still a pretty decent hockey player. Last year, I want to say he had 70-something points, if I remember correctly. He definitely led the Flames in points last year. Yeah. So we'll change tabs over here. We'll share this. So yeah, 75 points last year. Real uptick in ice time, playing 18 minutes a game last year. I would not be opposed to Kadri, because now we're kind of at the point where the Rangers have to start making decisions that are both about maximizing this window and then worrying about it down the road eventually. Because right now, the Rangers are kind of at a point where it's really only about this upcoming season. Share this. This is his regression adjusted plus minus. Good goals, good expected, good chances. Calgary's a volume team, though, so this probably comes down a little bit closer to one standard deviation away from the mean when we're talking about Kadri as a Ranger, because he's just on a volume-based team like the Flames, like the Hurricanes, like the Panthers. You get a lot more opportunities to throw pucks on net. That'll juice your expected goals. That'll juice your Corsi. But now we're kind of at a point where the Rangers have to get interesting. Kadri is not a bad idea. In a vacuum, it makes sense. There's a player who still has game left. He's older. He's expensive. The problem is the reports are he doesn't want to leave. Sports fan for life. Anything on Tyler Toffoli? So I saw earlier this morning speculation that he was going to San Jose because he wanted to go back to California, wanted to get a lot of ice time, and doesn't really care because he's already got a Stanley Cup. So I could see Tyler Toffoli still being in the mix for the Rangers. It wasn't an insider who reported that. It was one of the many people masquerading as an insider. Pierre LeBrun, are the Nashville Predators going to steal the day? Front runners on Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, and also end up with Brady Shea. That would be very funny if the Predators just loaded up on all those guys who are a little bit too old and kind of expensive, all in the hopes of maybe making the second round of the playoffs next year. I do think that would be pretty funny, in all honesty. I was very impressed with Nashville last year. What they did, it was a real testament to the resolve of that group, to guys like Ryan O'Reilly, to Ryan McDonough, who's not there anymore, but you get what I'm saying. All right. As far as the Rangers go, everybody we have heard them linked to has been signed somewhere else or linked somewhere else more aggressively. So Kane, from what I heard, never that serious of an option for the Rangers. From what I was told, he didn't want to leave Detroit, and Pat Brisson was very happy to call in Larry Brooks for a favor and to make it sound like the Rangers were invested in that. And Kane got himself a good number. He got himself a good one-year deal with incentives set up to maximize that value. I think the max value can be like $6.1 million, something like that. That's a lot of money, frankly, for somebody who's going to be 36 years old by the time next season ends. I don't think Patrick Kane would have addressed the Rangers' issues, but that's kind of the thing here. And Andrew and I talked about this on the opening of free agency last year. You really can't solve team issues on free agency day. most of the time you can plug a hole. If a ship's going down and you got a bucket and you can plug the hole, you get by. You don't want to be on the high seas with a boat with a plugged up hole in a bucket ready to start dumping water off of it again as soon as the plug in the hole dissipates. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Rangers because they have a lot tied up in a handful of guys. And look, from what we're gathering, everything's on the table. And I keep looking over to the right because I do have Twitter open and I do want to see news as it comes in. So can we react? Yes, Chris, I agree with you. I think if the Rangers are going to make a big move, it's going to be a trade, not free agency. Just because the candidates, last night, Stamkos, Marchessault, Bertuzzi, Teuvo Teravainen, Gensel even. There were a lot of guys still on the table, even last night when I was coming home from Forbidden Door. Now, Marchessault and Stamkos are there, but they've been linked to Nashville. Marchessault was linked to New Jersey as well. After those guys go, I don't know where you go from there. I don't know what the next logical step in free agency is. Sure, Rangers could definitely outbid on Marchessault or Stamkos, but do you really want to outbid on those guys? And I like Marchessault a lot. Like, frankly, I think him more than Stamkos would definitely help. I think Marchessault plays with a little bit of a fuck you to his game that the Rangers kind of need, frankly. He's a good player. He's got the 7th most goals of anybody in the playoffs over the last 2 seasons. And the only people ahead of him are McDavid, Draisaitl, and Zach Hyman, and then guys from the Panthers who went to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row. Marchessault won the Conn Smythe last season, not this past year, obviously. That was Connor McDavid. But when you are at that point, there are no easy choices now. The Rangers have boxed themselves into a corner to some degree, and because of that, they're going to have to start picking and prioritizing. Do you want to be as good as you can this upcoming season, 2024, 2025, or do you want to worry about the long-term future? Because hang on, the stream's buffering a little bit. I do think the Rangers are kind of at a point. Ooh, Nashville agrees 4 years, $8 million per for Stamkos. Okay. I see the vision. They're not going to be amazing next year, Nashville, but they'll be better. I think you add Stamkos to a team that was already solid, and they got to fill some holes. They lost McDonough, and that's a problem, but it sounds like Shane Pinto has officially asked for a trade. I would be interested in Shane Pinto as a trade candidate. I don't think he's a top 6 guy, but if he's the 3rd-line center and you want to run Hedl as the 1st or 2nd-line right wing, I'd be open to that. That's something that might be able to work. Hang on, I got to blow my nose again here. We're at a point where the Rangers have to prioritize. You see the deal Toronto did with Tanev. I'm not saying that's what the Rangers should do, but I am saying that is the type of creativity the Rangers are going to need to have. And that's why I raised the real question. Is the Rangers' goal trying to win the Stanley Cup this upcoming season, have the best roster you possibly can? Or is it going to be reminiscent of last year, the year before that, where the opening night roster is going to be pretty underwhelming? They will bank cap space. They will push chips in at the deadline, and they'll see what happens. I am not the only one who would like to see what the alternate history looked like if the Rangers were willing to part with Gabe Perreault for Jake Gensel and throw Jake Gensel on the Rangers team that lost to the Panthers in 6 games. I'm not the only one, but the Rangers don't have that choice anymore. Jake Gensel is not an option. Steven Stamkos is not an option. And because of that, the Rangers are going to have to get creative. There are upside guys out there. There are quite a lot of interesting upside guys out there. Guys who need changes of scenery, guys who need opportunities to play more. I'm pulling up my notes. Where is it? It's on this account. I think that slideshow. I think. Yes, here it is. Okay. Oh, wait, no. That's the Oilers one. Where did I put that? It's probably still in here, actually. Yes. Okay. Just queuing something up. Here we go. So this is what we're working with right now. You can safely assume Sam Carrick will play in the spot where Edstrom is, that fourth line center spot. Rempe Vizi, Sam Carrick, Will Cooley, Hedel, Johnny Brodzinski until they replace that spot. Kako may or may not be here. Trocheck, Panarin, Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere. We are operating under the assumption Trouba's not coming back, so they will need somebody for this spot. Now, I'm going to go to the next page. These are free agents. We know Stamkos is probably no. Matt Duchene re-signed with Dallas. Sean Monahan, he's been linked to Columbus. Marchessault, he's been linked to the Devils and to Nashville. Adam Henrique would not be opposed, but he's not fixed. He's not your first line right wing. Max Domi, he stayed in Toronto. Elias Lindholm, he's been linked to the Bruins. Alex Wenberg, the Rangers don't really have an appetite in bringing him back because if they did, they would have found a way to make that work. I thought Wenberg was fine for what he was. Wenberg's skill set is never going to produce a lot of offense. I wrote like 3,000 words the week the Rangers traded for him. He's a good player, but he does not fix the Rangers' fundamental issues. Then you look at the wingers. Sam Reinhart, he stayed. Excuse me, this is Chandler Stevenson in the center column, not Jonathan Marchessault. That's Jonathan Marchessault here in the winger column. Drouin, we're going to operate as staying in Colorado because he wants to keep playing with McKinnon. Tyler Toffoli has been linked to San Jose, but that's not official yet. Tarasenko, haven't heard anything. Perron, haven't heard anything. Teravainen is going back to Chicago. Bertuzzi is going to Chicago. Patrick Kane stayed in Detroit. Anthony Mantha is out there. Anthony Duclair is out there. Warren Fogle is out there. Haven't heard anything on Jake DeBrusk. Haven't heard anything on Max Pacioretty. But those are very different tiers of player. You know, we're talking DeBrusk. We're talking... and Chris said Toffoli done to the Sharks. Yeah. So now the Rangers got to get interesting. And we're going to go over to the next tab, the next page of this slideshow, which has trade candidates, because that's where they're at. You know, you bring in Tarasenko 2 years after it didn't really work the first time. That's kind of a hard sell. And then real quick on defense, Shane Gostisbehere, he's not playing third pair right D. Brady Shea isn't. Brandon Montour signed in Seattle. OEL has been linked to a few teams. Brendan Dillon, no, excuse me. That is Brendan Dillon. He's been linked to Brendan Dillon stayed in Winnipeg, I think. Gustafsson, I would be fine with, but I know most Ranger fans have no interest in bringing him back. Tyler Myers, he stayed in Vancouver. Sean Walker is out there. He is doable. He would be a third pair right D, but he's going to get too much money for that role. Shattenkirk would be fine for that. Zadorov has been linked to Boston. Mike Riley is probably staying with the Islanders. Kulikov is staying with Florida. Brendan Dillon is, I believe, still out there. Chris Tanev to Toronto. We all think Brett Pesce is going to the Devils. And Ian Cole, he's a bad person. Yeah, you're right, Chris. That is Dylan DeMello. You're right. Ian Cole is a bad person. I don't want Ian Cole on my hockey team. That's where I'm at on Ian Cole. Fit the void. He won't be expensive, and definitely somebody the Rangers could actually do, but unfortunately. Okay, next. This is where we can start to get spicy. Now, as you'll notice, some of these guys have already been traded. Andrew Mangiapane has been traded. Kevin Hayes has been traded. Michael Backlund would work. Trevor Zegras would work. Oliver Bjorkstrand would work. There are options. Shane Pinto is out here as well. Brandon Tanev is here. Booch is out here. Travis Konechny, Alex Tuck. There are candidates to fix these issues. Depends on who you're trading with. We can all operate under the assumption that trading for Trevor Zegras is going to be costly. We can operate under the assumption that no, I was reading something. It was speculation, not an agreement to a contract, but the other thing, you bring in Trevor Zegras, the old heads are going to lose their fucking minds. Larry Brooks might actually cry in his column, dedicating an entire column to calling the Rangers soft. It is really frustrating, but the Rangers' goal is not to get tougher. It's not to get bigger. It is to get better at hockey. Some of the players they add, Marchessault to Nashville as well. I have no idea what in God's name Barry Trotz is cooking. I am sending a text. Okay. I don't know what Nashville is cooking, by the way. Let's pull that up real quick. But yeah, real quick on the trade front. Guys like Vasily Podkolzin, Adrian Kempe. There are interesting defense forwards and defensemen out there. You know, Ville Heinola of the Jets is out there. Rutger McGrody is out there. There are candidates to improve this team. Okay, I'm going to change this. Talking about the Predators. Let me hit share screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So last year, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist was a really good first line last year. They had really strong underlying numbers. They had a lot of possession and solid. But now you add Stamkos and you add Marchessault this. You're going to assume Stamkos is going to stay on the wing. He's not going to go back to center like he has been the last couple of years in Tampa where he was playing on the wing. You slide him in there with Ryan O'Reilly and Forsberg. You got Marchessault in the mix. Tommy Novak, nice underlying numbers. Colton Sissons, Parsonen, and Cody Glass. Glass and Sissons had nice seasons. I have no idea who Juuso Parsonen is, in all honesty. But you're adding two impact top six wingers to a team that made the playoffs last year, largely through resolve and grit as opposed to like real talent. And that's a commendation to their coaching staff, especially because, you know, they canceled the U trip. But you look, this defense is really light. I love Roman Josi. He's incredible. This is a really light defense. I like Jeremy Lauzon. I think he's decent, but Luke Shen not really cutting it as a second pair right D at this point. It's really difficult to get what the vision is for Nashville. If they just want to be good, sure. But I struggle to think you're going to win a Stanley Cup with Luke Shen as your third or fourth best defenseman. That just doesn't seem like a translatable path to success for a hockey team in 2024. And I'm going to keep looking over. Jonathan Drouin is likely hitting the open market. Boston, St. Louis, and the Rangers believed to be among the clubs most interested. Okay, that's not very helpful, Darren Dreger. That, if anything, that's just you doing a favor. Hearing talks have stalled between Ottawa and Shane Pinto. I'd be in on Shane Pinto. I don't know if that's the best, like, moral question, you know, gambling on hockey, that might be an issue, but oh, man, needed to do that. It's rough when you have a stuffy nose. Nashville's team is solid. Let's pull up Tampa Bay because I think what Tampa Bay did was very interesting. They kicked franchise legend. It's not an exaggeration to say Steven Stamkos is probably the most important player in the history of the franchise. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like, Marty St. Louis, great career, Hall of Famer, won a Stanley Cup. LeCavier, Hedman is an all-time great player. Vasilevsky is an all-time great player. Stamkos is the best player in the history of that franchise. You let him walk because you try and do the long game. You try and do like the $8 by $3 million contract to circumnavigate the cap. Not circumnavigate, excuse me, circumvent the world, circumvent the salary cap. I don't think this Tampa team scares me. Like, it just doesn't. I like Jake Gensel. If the Rangers were in on Jake Gensel, I'd be talking up Jake Gensel a lot more. But he's better than Stamkos. But you saw how they got picked apart against Florida in that first round last year. This defense is fine. Like, Moser, I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get younger and cheaper. But replacing Sergachev with McDonough to facilitate keeping Jake Gensel, it seems weird to me. I struggle. What did Elliott say? Jordan Martinook staying in Carolina, 3 by 3.05 million. Okay. Yeah, Carolina's in a weird spot too. We'll pull Carolina up as well. No, wait, that's the Flames, not the Hurricanes. There we go. This is what they're working with right now. Obviously, not a finished roster. Moves to be made. They did, like I just said, they did just re-sign Martinook, so he's not on here. Obviously, this is not live information, but Svechal Jarvis is solid. Jack Drury is a nice player, but they're probably trading Marty Necas. Kotkaniemi is expensive for someone who's not particularly good. Kuznetsov, not really a guy anymore. And Brendan Lemieux, I don't know how he's still in the NHL in all honesty. But you think about where Carolina was going into last year. They had Pesce, Shea, and then they traded for Gensel. 3 really impactful guys who were going into unrestricted free agency. Oh, man. When you do that, when you stake it all in, and Carolina did, and I give them a real commendation for going for it, because that was my critique of Chris Drury. They didn't go for it. I didn't mind Roslovic. I didn't mind Wenberg. I thought they were both fine additions, and they did what they do. They are not impact players. They are 11th and 10th. They are 9th and 10th forwards on a good team. The Rangers tried to make Roslovic a top 6 wing on a good team. He's not that. I think if you gave Roslovic, I don't want to call it a mulligan, but I think if you had a better idea of how you wanted to implement Roslovic and use him, you would have got better results. And because they didn't do that, he's been lampooned, skewered. I would say the same thing with Gustafsson, where I would be fine with running it back with him. I think for what he's going to cost, he's perfectly fine. But the thing is, he would probably have to play on his offside, and I don't know if Peter Laviolette feels comfortable with that. Tampa Bay's hoping that top line power play carries them to a top Atlantic spot, and if Vasi crashes and burns, yes, Chris. If Vasilevsky's sub-average goalie again, the Lightning are done. I still think the Lightning, even with Gensel, they're not a Stanley Cup team. You look at that back end, you look at their third and fourth line, they just don't have the guys anymore. But they're in a weird spot. Let me pull up. Who was I going to pull up? Oh, yeah, I was going to pull up the Devils. This is where I'm worried. I'll be honest. This is where I'm worried. You look around this division, Carolina is worse. Without Pesce and Shea, they're definitely worse than they were. Maybe guys they implement, like maybe Jack Drury takes a nice leap for them. Maybe Jalen Chatfield plays more. He plays in the Pesce role, and he's fine. But Carolina is not going to be as talented as they were last year. The Islanders, they'll be a good regular season team. They don't worry me in the playoffs. The Blue Jackets, the Flyers, no. The Penguins, they've been linked to Anthony Beauvillier and Matt Grzelcyk. I'm not worried about the Penguins. I'm worried about the Devils. The Devils were very aggressive in pursuing some space to make some moves happen. I don't understand why they just dumped Akira Schmidt in that trade to Vegas. Like, sure, they might think they see something in Paul Cotter, but Alex Holtz is good. Like, I don't understand how the takeaway, the evaluation from the Devils last season was, yeah, we don't need Alex Holtz. I don't understand why you wouldn't have a willingness to play a young guy who's cheaper as opposed to trying to get tougher for the sake of being tougher. Because the Devils' issue 2 years ago when they lost to Carolina wasn't that they were a soft team. It's that Carolina plays really structured hockey and wears you down. The Devils' defense is what let them down in that series. You know, I spent a lot of last year thinking, well, yeah, of course their defense wasn't as good. They lost Severson. They lost Adam Graves. They lost Ryan Graves. And neither of those guys was good where they went. Severson was not good in Columbus, and Graves might have the worst contract of any non-Jacob Trouba defenseman in the entire NHL. Excuse me, I lied. Darnell Nurse is the worst defenseman contract, but I see what the Devils want to do. They want to get closer to the mechanics of what Tampa Bay was running, where really skilled top 6, grinded out bottom 6. And because of that, they did make the sacrifice. And look, I don't know if Holtz is ever going to be anything, but wouldn't you have liked to have found out before you just gave up on him? And that's what was so asinine about the Lindy Ruff stuff down the back half of the season last year. The Devils, they weren't making the playoffs. They weren't making the playoffs, and I think that was pretty clear by the end of February. And still, Lindy Ruff spent all of that time giving Holtz 9-11 minutes a game, and it's really frustrating. But let's see, what does Elliott say? Tyler Toffoli 4x6 in San Jose, Sam Lafferty 2x2 in Buffalo. Okay. Toffoli cashed out. And I will say this. I like Tyler Toffoli's game. Watched a lot of him the last 3 years, the year and a half in Calgary, and then a lot of the Devils last year. He's a good player. I like Tyler Toffoli. He's not fast. He doesn't contribute to transition. He is a shooter, a really good shooter at that. But if he's not going to play on your first power play, which he's not taking Zibanejad's triggerman spot. He's not taking Panarin's half wall spot. He's not taking Trocheck's spot. And he's not taking Kreider's spot. He's going down. He's not going to be a 30-goal guy if he's not on your first power play. He's going to be a 20-goal guy. That's fine, but you can't bank on that guy being that type of player. I like Tyler Toffoli. I think he's a really solid hockey player, but for where the Rangers are at, adding that type of player is not going to make a huge difference. And that's the conundrum. The Rangers are not in a position where anybody they add in free agency is going to put them over the top. It will once again be incumbent upon the guys who are already here to be the difference. That is all Andrew and I said last year, the day free agency opened. Blake Wheeler, objectively a disaster. Eric Gustafsson, good. I would be perfectly fine if they brought Eric Gustafsson back. Jonathan Quick, home run. Your backup goalie wins 15 games, you won. It doesn't even matter how he played. He played well enough to win 15 games. That's great. Nick Bonino, enough said. Tyler Pitlick, enough said. Excuse me. Oh, man. Where are we at, friends? Where are we at? Muted myself there to clear my throat. Sean Jersey 4x6 in Utah. That's a good deal. I like Sean Jersey. I thought he was pretty solid for them. It's very crazy the three players that the Kings had to dump to facilitate trading for Pierre-Luc Dubois were all good hockey players. Like, I like him. I like Gabe Velarde. I thought saw what they were trying to do. I saw what the Kings thought they were doing. They thought they were trading to get the eventual Kopitar replacement. That they were going to run Kopitar, Phil Deneau, and Pierre-Luc Dubois down the middle for a year or two. Dubois would transition into a top six center, and he would show up. But instead, didn't really click for him. And it's unfortunate because you want to see guys make it work. You want to see teams get rewarded for taking a swing. And that's really all my Alec Lindsay. Was Montour interesting for New York? If they traded Trouba, yes. Without trading Trouba, there's no way you could justify acquiring another right-handed defenseman who's going to make some real money. If they had traded Trouba, Montour would have been fine. I do think Montour benefited from playing on a team where he didn't have to do as much as he would in New York. The Rangers ask a lot of their defensemen, frankly, and it's part of why they struggle. It's part of why the Rangers defense collectively struggle is that they ask their guys to do a lot. Is Drury asleep? I don't know. I think, like Chris has said in the chat a few times, they're probably looking at trades now. Do you really want Jonathan Drouin? And no disrespect, Drouin had a really solid season last year, riding shotgun with McKinnon on a good Colorado team. I get it. I really hope that's just a case of the Rangers being used to drive up the price. We know the Rangers are used to drive up the price all of the time. You saw the Red Wings get this done to them with Patrick Kane. The Rangers really weren't interested in Patrick Kane. If they wanted to bring him back, they could have done it last year. All he cost was money. They chose not to do that. Instead of waiting, they threw the money at Wheeler, at Pitlick, at Bonino, at Gustafsson. They could have waited for Patrick Kane to be healthy. They could have kept $1.5 million, $2 million on the books and then figured it out down the road. Rangers didn't want him back. Patrick Kane, at this point in his career, if he is your third line right wing or your second line right wing, that's probably fine. You don't want him your first line. You don't, because he does not facilitate sustainable chance creation. You watch the tape, and I watched quite a bit of Detroit last year because Patrick Kane's a loser, but cherry picking, no forechecking, no defense. He's going to sit at the blue line. He's going to leave Kreider and Zibanejad back to play defense, and he's going to hope they can spring him. But this isn't 2014 Patrick Kane, who's going to blow past everybody. Kane at this point is a supplementary piece. If he was the Rangers, one of the Rangers' moves, I would have held my nose and sucked it up. The Capitals acquire Jacob Chikrin from the Sens for Nick Jensen and a third-round pick. That's crazy. No. The Capitals are making swings, man. I like making fun of them because I don't think they particularly care about winning. They just want to make the playoffs and give Ovi as many games as possible to try and break the record. Their decisions have been very interesting. I love Mangiapane, one of my favorite players in the entire league. I really wish the Rangers had found a way to make that trade happen, because if you put him in there in the Kako spot, you're cooking. Didn't get that to happen. I was really interested in Jacob Chikrin as a Lindgren replacement, because I don't think they should be extending Lindgren, because very clearly he doesn't have the puck skills that the Rangers need from their defensemen. And that's the thing. The Rangers ask a lot of their defensemen. I am not saying it what the Rangers ask is easy or that they're falling apart. It is because they ask so much of their defense. It is hard for those guys, especially guys who come in here short term, to get it. And I still contend that the Rangers' issue starts on that back end. It is, yes, they need forwards, but their defense is the foundational issue because everything is interconnected. They don't get to transition fast enough. They can't generate offense because they are a rush team. They're not good off the cycle. I should amend that. Their third line last year down the stretch of Wenberg, Cooley, and Kako, really good at grinding the game, cycling, and forcing the other team to play defense, but they weren't in a position to score a lot of goals. And I know the average hockey fan, they really only care about goals and assists. I know the average hockey fan does not want homework. They don't want to be talking about Z scores and standard deviations and goals above replacement. I get it. I really do. I understand that most people's engagement with hockey, it just stops at watching the games. Maybe they read the newspaper, maybe they have like an athletic subscription. But beyond that, I understand most people are not consuming hockey the way me and other content people are, because they don't care. They don't care about the salary cap. They don't care about wins above replacement. They want to see goals and they want to see saves from the goalie. Because of that, you get very reductionist points of view about Kako, about Wenberg, about Shesterkin, about Miller. And I know not everybody watches hockey the same way. It's part of what's so interesting is that people watch games and have entirely different takeaways because of that. What did Elliot Friedman say? And Matt Roy. Okay. Washington expected to sign Matt Roy for 7 years at $5.5 million. Jonathan Marchessault 5 by $5.5 to Nashville. Nashville and Washington. A lot of swings. A lot of swings. I don't know if I see the vision with Matt Roy. I had one of my friends I was with at Forbidden Door last night asked me what I thought about Matt Roy, and I said, if he's the Trouba replacement, that's fine, but he's not that mobile. He's not that good of a puck mover. So if he's playing with K'Andre, it's going to put more pressure on K'Andre. And if he's your third pair guy, you don't want to pay a free agent a third pair right-handed defenseman $5 million a year. Well, there it is officially. Stamkos tweeted, "Thank you, Tampa. I don't have the words yet. I will soon. It's still early to process. Just want everyone to know how thankful we are for 16 years as a Bull. My family and I are excited for the next chapter." You are seeing real swings right now. Washington and Nashville making a lot happen. And until the Rangers figure out what they're doing, we're going to sit here. I know I'm watching the timeline in real time start to panic. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, 4 years, $3.5 million to Toronto. Anthony Mantha, 1 year, $3.5 million to Calgary. I don't know if the Rangers could seriously consider Anthony Mantha because I know things between him and Laviolette were a little contentious a few years ago, and that's ultimately what led him to falling out of favor with the organization. But yes, I agree. Seamus, I would have liked Mantha at 1 by 3.5. I don't know if the stuff with him and Laviolette in Washington was prohibitive to making any type of deal happen. So because of that, it's hard to say. I would have liked Mantha. I think he is a good skater. I think he's big. I think he's got okay puck skills, but we're sitting here and he is not a Ranger, unfortunately. I want to see the Rangers show me something today. I don't need the roster to be finished. It is fine if you go into opening night with a question mark or two in the lineup. And I imagine if they can finally facilitate this Trouba trade, right-handed defenseman, that'll be a spot they need to fill. I imagine they're probably still going to be short at least one, if not two wingers, because frankly, they're either going to have to move somebody from the left to right side, whether that's Cooley, whether that's Kreider, or they're going to be banking on Othman, or they're going to be banking on Brett Berard. I don't know if that's a great plan. Right now, that's what it seems like it's looking like because the Rangers have missed out on quite a few of these big names. There are trade candidates out there. I'm going to pull the graphic back up now. There are plenty of trade candidates out there. If you want Mario Ferraro, if you want Ville Heinola, Jacob Chikrin, unfortunately, is not an option anymore. Neither is Sean Jersey. Jeremy Lauzon is on here. There are options if you want to improve the defense. If you want to improve up front, Adrian Kempe's got 1 year left on his deal. Pavel Buchnevich has 1 year left on his deal. Alex Tuck has 1 year left on his deal. Travis Konechny, I believe, has one more year remaining on his deal. Hang on, let me look. I also don't know how the Rangers feel about the trading in the division thing. I don't care. Like, by all means, like, trade Trouba to the Penguins, make it hit their problem. Travis Konechny. Yes, Travis Konechny's last year of team control is this upcoming season. You drop Travis Konechny on Zibanejad and Chris Kreider's wing, I'm moved. I am moved. Chris, I agree. I see what Toronto is trying to do. I really do see what they are trying to do. They're trying to make their facsimile version of what Florida just had. And Brad Treliving is an aggressive. There are Teravainen and Bertuzzi officially. Bertuzzi 4 by 5.5, Teravainen 3 by 5.4. And the Rangers home opener will be October 12th against the Utah Hockey Club. Okay. So Utah's opening over here then because they're playing the Islanders home opener as well. So Utah's starting their season out, their inaugural season as a franchise with a New York tri-state area swing. The Rangers are going to have to getting creative now. Trades are where you see where guys really have a vision. I like what the Capitals have done. I do. I really like what the Capitals have done. Adding Chikrin, and yes, adding Pierre-Luc Dubois at the expense of only Darcy Kemper. I like Matt Roy for them, not for the Rangers. Those are two different things. A player can be good, but might not necessarily fit. And Nashville, I don't think Nashville is going to be a good team. Matt Roy, 6 years, $5.75 million. Okay. Let's see. Hang on. I want to test something here while we're waiting for news. I want to see if I can just do this. It might work. It might not. I just want to test it because we have some time to kill. I'll definitely stream for quite a bit today because, yes, Andrew and I are going to do the show later tonight at the normal time, but at the same time, news as it breaks is a lot more interesting to talk about. Does this work? Yes. Okay. It's too big, but it works. Yeah. Chikrin, Washington accepted to his sign. Matt Roy, 6 years, $5.75 million. Okay. So as news comes in, I will do my best to flash it there. I should start updating the ticker manually, but at the same time, I don't know if you want to hear me typing the entire time. So I might abstain from that and might just flash the trades or free agent signings on screen as they come in, because there's a lot going on. I could see the Rangers looking at Jeff Skinner. I did just see somebody say that. Okay, here's another one. This is official now. This one has been reported for a few days. This isn't exactly groundbreaking or crazy news, but Brett Pesce, 6 years, 5.5 million in New Jersey. So we're talking Pesce, we're talking Luke Hughes, Simon Nemeth, Dougie Hamilton. It's a pretty good four right there. And the Devils knew they needed to upgrade two things: their defense, and they needed to upgrade their goaltending situation. They've unequivocally upgraded goalie. Whether or not they get a good Markstrom year, we'll see. Markstrom has been an every other year goalie in his career, so it'd be very funny if they put all this work into getting their defensemen. All three players on buyout waivers cleared yesterday. Ian Cole, 1 year, $3.1 million to Utah. Yakov Trenin, 4 years, $3.5 million to Minnesota. Okay. Lindholm and Zadorov to Boston. Okay. So Don Sweeney's plan is to implement the 2022-2023 Calgary Flames as his roster construction. Zadorov's fine. Like, he'll be the Matt Grzelcyk replacement, so that's fine. Lindholm, I don't think is going to be the guy they want him to be. I think Lindholm is a solid player. I don't think Lindholm is ever going to be a first line center on a Stanley Cup team. I think he's like a B minus version of Mika Zibanejad, but without the big one timer and the occasional flash play. Lindholm is solid. You know, he had a solid playoffs for the Canucks. He wasn't very good in the regular season when he got to Vancouver. Excuse me. He wasn't very good in the playoffs in the regular season, but he was solid in the playoffs. And I like Lindholm. I've spent a lot of time the last few years. Craig Smith, 1 million, 1 year to Chicago. Anthony Stolarz, 2 years, 2.5 million in Toronto. So the Leafs' new goaltending tandem dropped. Anthony Stolarz and Joe Wool. Okay. If you're telling me that's the defense that's going to play behind Morgan Riley and Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Chris Tanev, sure. I think you're staking a lot on being able to manufacture good goaltending based on your skaters, and that's doable. You can manufacture. The Minnesota Wild hired Jack Capuano as an assistant coach. That is hilarious. That is genuinely hilarious. How does Jack Capuano still hang around? It's crazy. What do we got now, Mr. Friedman? Okay. That goes one more guy I thought the Rangers might have been interested in, but no longer available. I'll flash it on here because this is a kind of good one. David Perron, 2 years, $4 million to Ottawa. I, for one, didn't think David Perron really kind of fit what the Rangers want to do. But if they had brought him in, I would have seen the plan. Experience, a lot of playoff games, physical, forechecker, cycle type. A high-end version of like what Will Cooley does. David Perron, really, really solid NHL career. You know, he's bounced around a bit. St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Detroit, St. Louis again. But very clearly, Ottawa wants to be better. They went out and got Olmark, David Perron. They've still got some young, exciting pieces. They just traded Chikrin. They didn't get anything great. Like Nick Jensen's like a 6D, and Nick Jensen's going to hell for what he did to Adam Fox. Okay. Nick Jensen is going to hell for what he did to Adam Fox in that first round series. Team look absolute losers. Through Brady Shea. That's a big number. My goodness, that's a big number. I'll flash it up here because this is a name and this is a player. My goodness, that is a big ticket. 7 years, $7 million. So Nashville's got their Ryan McDonagh replacement now. Shea, I imagine, will either play on his offside with Roman Josi, but I don't think they'll do that. I think he'll slide down. He'll be their third defenseman. He'll be what Ryan McDonagh was in Tampa Bay all those years. And I don't understand where Nashville has all this cap space coming from because they have spent a lot of money today. Elias Lindholm signed 7-year deal with Bruins carrying $7.75 million cap. Yeah, no, that's a bad deal. That's too much money. Lindholm's like a $6.5 million player. And look, you always got to overpay for free agents. They're always going to ask for more money than they were getting paid. You're always going to have to try and outbid other teams. So I get it. I understand why Shea is getting the deal he did. Shea's a solid player. I like Brady Shea. Okay, here's one. This is interesting. I don't know if I see the vision here, but this is not a bad one. Let's see how this looks on the screen because this is another orientation picture. Yes. Okay. Igor Sharangovich, who the Flames bought low on. 5 years, $5.75 million per year. Sharangovich is interesting. He's a good. Actually, we're gonna do a statistical analysis with Nick. Hang on. We need to look. We need his hockey reference here to illustrate something because a lot of people miss this. Okay, share my screen. Hockey reference. All right, this is Igor Sharangovich's hockey reference. You see the best statistical year of his career, 24 goals before this past season, 16 minutes a game. Last year, first year in Calgary, he's up almost 3 full minutes. He takes almost 100. He takes more than 100 shots than he did the previous season, and he almost doubles his shooting percentage. You see shots attempted, shots on goal, but yeah, another 40 shots on goal and doubling your shooting percentage. That's how you go from 13 to 31 goals. You get power play time, you get top 6 time. And a lot of people fail to realize that's where you really get your statistical boon. And that's why statistically players peak statistically, counting stats wise, 27, 28, 29, because that's when they're getting first line minutes, second line minutes. That's when they're getting power play. Whereas younger in your career, you're playing lower in the lineup. You're probably not on the first power play unit. Sharangovich, I don't think is a first or second line player on a Stanley Cup winning team. Very clearly, Calgary's goal right now is not to win the Stanley Cup. It is to be competitive. But I get it. They wanted to reward a guy they took a gamble on. Okay, here's one. Victor Arvidsson to Edmonton. I like that. I don't see terms yet, but Arvidsson is an interesting player. He's somebody I know a few people had mentioned as a candidate for the Rangers. I'll pull up his hockey reference as well. Where is your screen? Here we go. So last year, he was coming off of surgery. He only played 18 games, 15 points in 18 games. Year before that, 59 and 77, 49 and 66. You see the ice time up there, 16, 17 minutes. This is probably a middle 6 player on a good team, but I'm curious to see how Edmonton tries to use him. I think there's a good chance he's the Warren Fogle replacement, or if they can find a way to trade Evander Kane, he's the Evander Kane replacement because Edmonton needs to find a way to get a little more cap space. They had $14.5 million tied up in Evander Kane, who was injured and didn't play in the Stanley Cup final, and Darnell Nurse, who was the Oilers' worst defenseman in the Stanley Cup final. They're never going to be able to trade that Nurse contract, but they might be able to trade that Evander Kane contract if they're able to put a sweetener with it. What do we got, Elliot? What do we got? 2x4 in Edmonton for Victor Arvidsson, the Sharangovich extension. Okay, Chicago signed the goalie, Laurent Brossoit. Been in Vegas, been in Winnipeg, been a solid backup. I don't know how feasible it is to ask Brossoit to be your starting goalie as a team that's very clearly still in the ascending period of their roster transition, where obviously I like Connor Bedard, I like Frank Nazar. They've got some interesting, but Alex Vlasic, the defenseman, had a really nice season for them last year, kind of really difficult assignments, a lot of minutes for a young guy, and he looked all right. You can't go into next year with Brossoit as your one goalie and expect a significant improvement. I think Brossoit's fine, but he's not a starting goalie if you want to be a good team. Arvidsson 2x4. That's effectively what I think Fogle was getting paid. Hang on, I gotta find my notes. Share screen, presentations. Where is it? Where is it? Because I have stuff for the Oilers, because as you know, I've been doing Locked On Oilers for a while now and having fun with it, but as much visualization as you can have, it does help. Um Oh, that's right. I have it on I have okay. Share screen. Okay, I'm not going to do that, but what we can do is I can read off of the graphic I had made. So, the Oilers free agents this summer: Connor Brown, probably not coming back. Sam Carrick, who the Rangers signed. Warren Fogle, who's getting $2.75 million. Sam Gagne, who was $7.75. Adam Henrique, who was $5.825, but some of that was getting retained by Anaheim. Matthias Janmark, who was $1 million. Corey Perry, $775K. Vinny Desharnais, $762,000. Troy Stetcher, $1.1 million. Stetcher injured, probably not a candidate to come back. I've heard Desharnais is not coming back. Calvin Pickard is going to be the backup to Stuart Skinner. And then Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg are the restricted free agents this summer. They'll get that taken care of. I'm not particularly worried about that. Nikita Zadorov, Boston, 6x5. Brendan Dillon, 3x4 to New Jersey. Okay. So the Devils add Brendan Dillon and add Brett Pesce to Luke Hughes, to Simon Nemitz, to Dougie Hamilton. They traded John Marino to facilitate that. Overhaul: Jason Zucker, 1 year, $5 million to Buffalo. Okay. Um. Matt Roy. What do we got here, friends? Where are we at? Come on, somebody give me something. Okay, that's fun. We can do that. We can look at the Bruins roster now. Share screen, line combinations, Bruins. Okay, so Lindholm is going to come in here. The Protas brother they have, he flashed a little bit, but they sent him back to junior. I don't know the configuration they're going to go here. Maybe they move one of the centers they have to wing. But this team, even with Zadorov and even with Lindholm, so what? You're telling me Zadorov's going to play with McAvoy, or he's going to play with Brendan Carlo, who can't stay healthy? I really struggled to see what the vision here is for the Bruins. And I'm never going to give the Bruins shit, because they had a great run. They won a lot of games over the last 10, 15 years. Really good group. Really kind of found a way to tool on the fly to keep reorganizing the team around I almost said Mergeron. Around Marchand, around Bergeron. They got Pasta in there. McAvoy eventually came in. Flames are close on Victor Arvidsson, but he's going south. Sources say 2x4. Okay. Former NHL Bruins defenseman Matt Grzelcyk has signed with Let's Go Penguins. Okay, sure, I guess. If you'd like, that's fine, but I don't really see that. The Flames have signed goalie Devin Cooley to a 2-year contract. Okay, so they have a third goalie in the mix there. I've heard Elias Lindholm really wanted to be a member of the Bruins. That's great. I do want to bring something up I find I've wanted to talk about in this vein. And I forget who was talking about this on Twitter on Friday, but I do think it's an interesting topic and something that I can hit on here for a few minutes while we wait for more transactions to come in. Free agency. Free agency is not where you're going to improve your team. Free agency is where you are going to plug holes. If you are trying to dramatically overhaul your team in free agency, you're probably going to overpay and you're probably going to miscast guys. The other part of that is most of these contracts, they will not be paid out by the person who signed them, as in the general manager. You think about where the Rangers are at right now, and you go and look. Hell, I'll pull up their cap friendly now. Got to get in every last cap friendly you can before the Washington Capitals take it away from us for no real good reason. So, share screen, cap friendly Rangers. Okay. Artemi Panarin, he was signed by Jeff Gorton. Mika Zibanejad was traded for by Jeff Gorton. His extension came from Chris Drury. Chris Kreider's extension came from Jeff Gorton. Trocheck, that's all Gorton. Philip Hedl, drafted by Jeff Gorton, extension by Chris Drury. Capo Caco, drafted by Jeff Gorton, extension Chris Drury. Alexis Lafreniere, that was that was Gorton's last draft. He has yet to get a long-term extension, but Drury did give him the RFA bridge deal. Sam Carrick, Chris Drury just did that. Adam Enstrom, Will Cooley, Matt Rempe, those are all Drury guys. Jimmy Vesey is a Drury guy. Adam Fox, that was a Gorton trade, a Drury extension. Trouba, that was both Gorton. Andre Miller, Gorton draft pick, Drury extension. Zach Jones, I think was a Gorton draft pick. I don't remember. Yeah, he was a Gorton draft pick, 2019. Okay, and then Shesterkin was a Glenn Sather draft pick, and subsequently extended by Gorton, and then Drury. What do we got? Elliot Friedman, Brandon Duhaime, 2 by 1.85 in Washington. Washington's really overhauling their defense today, and I don't know if they're going to be that much better for doing it, but sure, why not? At least they're trying, and that's commendable. The Blue Jackets have agreed to terms with Sean Monahan. 5 years, $5.5 million. John Davidson does not get enough crap for being a bad GM and not having a vision. It's great. He's a nice guy. It's nice everybody likes him. He was really good on TV. I really enjoyed him and Sam when I was a kid. He's not a good executive. I mean, you look at that organization in Columbus, you look at the environment the Rangers were from 2019 to 2021. I mean, I have a hard time believing the Rangers were ever going to be successful with some of the just outright assholes that were on that team. And that's a Davidson thing. He was the one who wanted to give Mike Babcock a shot. He's the one who went to bat for Tony DeAngelo. Just saying. Yes, Chris, when you have a chance to reunite the 2022 Flames, you have to do it. I like Sean Monahan. I think he's a solid player. He's one of I want to say he had the 5th most points of any unrestricted free agent this past season. So, like, he's a solid player, but what is Columbus trying to do? And here, let's look at their lineup. Pull up Columbus. Okay. Johnny Gaudreau has fallen off a cliff since getting there. Whether or not he bounces back to be determined. Boone Jenner is fine. He's probably a trade candidate at the deadline this year because I believe he is an expiring contract. Marchenko, I like, but he's still very young, hasn't really gotten a whole lot of run. Adam Fantilli, I think, is going to be very good, but he had the Achilles injury last year, so he didn't play. Ken Johnston, Cole Sillinger, I like both of those guys. Whether or not they actually ever get to pan out, I don't know. Zach Werenski is good, but he's overpaid. They had to overpay to keep him. Severson, pretty stinky. Provorov, pretty stinky. Jurasek has a chance to be good, but I struggle to imagine Columbus is going to develop him properly. Goodbranson is only on the team because he's handsome and friends with Johnny Gaudreau. And I frankly don't know who Jake Christensen is. I wonder if he's related to Rangers legend Eric Christensen. So digress. What do we got? No, Sean Monahan. That's the last thing we got. Okay. I won't cause problems. I was debating going into a space and causing problems, but I'll be an adult. I will continue to run a professional organization over here. Canes have agreed to terms with Will Carrier, 6 years, $2 million. Sure, that's fine. I really wonder what what Carolina's plan is. Calgary. That's a good point, Travis Yost. The Central Division is looking a lot better. Nashville and Utah have gotten better. Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado were 3 of the 6 best regular season teams last year, and the Blackhawks will probably be better. So that's a nice mix of quality teams. Do you think players are maybe done with Rod Stick? I don't know if they're done with Rod Stick. It just might be that they've kind of hit the wall. Like, Carolina's not a bad team. They have talent, but they have continually run into teams that are just better. They're frankly in a very similar boat to where the Rangers are, where it's hard to begrudge the Carolina results because they've been good in the regular season for so long. But at the same time, you look at the results against Tampa Bay, Boston, the Rangers, they haven't been able to do it. Florida in there as well. And that's not a knock on those guys, but when you consistently lose to a team that's better, that's a reflection on the general manager's inability to refine the roster and improve it. The Bruins and Jeremy Swayman haven't made much progress on a new contract. Jake DeBrusk, 7 by 5.5 in Vancouver. So that's one more guy I thought the Rangers might have some interest in. Not going to be able to pull that one together. That's a lot of money for Jake DeBrusk. I don't know if I see that vision. LA Kings have agreed to 4 years at $3.8 million for Joel Edmondson. That's hilarious. Like, objectively, that's hilarious. What I'll say to the Ranger fans I'm watching on the timeline, get worried. The Rangers are going to trade for somebody. They might sign a free agent or two because they need to fill out the roster. I believe Hockey Stat Miner said they had 41 of 50 total contracts you're able to have in your organization. You can have a max of 50. They did non-tender a few guys in the AHL. I think the Rangers are going to be making a trade here, whether it's today, whether it's next week. I think the Rangers are going to go out there and trade for a top 6 wing. Who? I don't know. Like I said, Zegras is there, Kempe is there, Buchnevich is there. There are a lot of candidates the Rangers could go out and get. And maybe you don't want to trade with Pat Verbeek because he's miserable to trade with, but the Rangers definitely need to improve. Matt Murray is staying in Toronto. Okay, so they're going to roster 3 goalies, or he's going to be. I don't know what they're going to do there with 3 goalies. That's difficult to balance out. He might be okay with not playing. I mean, I don't know. When was the last time Matt Murray played in a game? Yeah, Matt Murray didn't play last year. Matt Murray's last NHL start was this April 2nd of 2023? Yeah. Matt Murray hasn't played since last year, so I don't really see the vision there. I could see Warren Fogle. I've seen a few Ranger fans suggest that. I could see Fogle. He's got good talent. He's got useful traits. He's a good forechecker. He's pretty quick. Okay puck skills. Definitely a good toolbox. You don't really want to pay for a forechecker. That's the thing. Chris, I have 2 trade predictions. One of these will happen. Zegras and Vetrano for Kakko and a bunch of picks, or Booch for Othman plus. I'd be fine with either of those. I am not convinced Brendan Othman is going to be an impactful NHL player this year, and the Rangers need to worry about this year. I've been streaming for almost an hour, a little more than an hour now, and I still haven't brought up the fact the Rangers got to figure out Shesterkin. And until they figure out Shesterkin, it's going to be hard to plan out the team long term. Raphael says, "What the hell is Drury doing? Almost everyone is gone." They got to be trying to get the Trouba thing done. That's really all I can think of. And this is something that I have accused Chris Drury of doing. Sources say the Blackhawks have agreed to a 1-year, $1.3 million deal with Pat Maroon. I have been critical of the fact that Chris Drury does not plan things out very well, that he has been reactionary as opposed to prepared. You've seen it every single season since he became the general manager. He took the job. He thought they were soft. He overdid it. Reeves, Blais, Gaudreau, Nemeth. None of those guys are on the team anymore. You saw 2 years ago. They lost to Tampa Bay. He thought Ryan Strome was the weak link. Okay, Vinny Trocheck. And that's all of the cap flexibility. One of the luxuries of being a rebuilding team is that you have cap space because you have all these guys on entry level contracts who aren't making a lot of money. When you have that, you don't need to push chips in. Because they pushed chips in, they took away some flexibility. He thought they didn't have enough talent. He traded for Kane. He traded for Tarasenko. He thought his guys were good enough. He just needed the right supporting cast. So they did Blake Wheeler for vibes. They did Jonathan Quick for vibes. They did Eric Gustafson because they didn't trust Zach Jones. And they brought in Nick Bonino for vibes. And now we're sitting here a season after getting 6 wins away from the Stanley Cup. He still thinks his guys are good enough. He still thinks that Vinajad, Kreider, Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere is good enough. I am not ready to totally say those can't be the five best forwards on a Stanley Cup winning team, but I'm awfully close. And that's why I want to see some action. It's why I want to see Trouba sent to the moon. What do we got? Elliot Friedman. Kiefer Sherwood, 2 times 1.5 to Vancouver. That's not a bad deal. I think Sherwood's not a bad player. There's a lot more money in the system. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, this is so much money. And the salary cap going up $5 million, that's like all of Tyler Bertuzzi's AAV. Every team just got enough money without doing anything to add Tyler Toffoli and not Tyler Toffoli, Jake Bertuzzi. God, I'm tired. Jake DeBrusk, Tyler Bertuzzi, Tyler Toffoli, someone in that mid-tier free agent. Every single team in the league got enough money to do that. You think about what happened in the NBA the summer the cap went up $20 million, where Harrison Barnes got like Harrison Barnes got like $120 million that summer. Durant obviously went to Golden State, but these GMs, they don't know how to act when they have extra money. They didn't even have to trade anyone to make extra money. And that's why you've seen some teams be aggressive this summer. You know, Nashville dumping Ryan McDonough, Tampa Bay letting Stamkos walk, dumping Jeannot, dumping Sergachev. That's true, Chris. I will never forget Nick Batum getting $24 million from the Hornets. I forgot about it. I did. I know I just said I'll never forget that, but I did actually forget about that. What is that bald man doing in Vancouver? That's a good question. I don't know what Patrick Alvin is cooking. What do we got, Mr. Friedman? Phantom notification. Oh well. All right, I'm going to pull the Rangers depth chart back up because I do want to focus on them for now. This is not a bad team. Even with a fourth line of respectfully 2 plugs and Jimmy Vesey, this team's not bad. This team very easily can win 45-ish regular season games next year as long as Shesterkin's fine. He doesn't even need to be special. As long as he's like a 9-10 goalie, it's fine. That's more than enough. That'll work. Kevin Stenlin, 2 years, $2 million in Utah. Carrier 6x2 in Nashville. Yep, thank you. Ehlers, okay. That's a good question, Anton. We can talk about Nick Ehlers. Hang on. I need to pull up all 3 zones because the thing I like about Ehlers is his transition game. And this is something the Rangers, they really have struggled with historically. So share screen. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Let's see how big this looks on your screen. Definitely need to make that a little bigger. Okay. Okay, so let's toggle on Winnipeg. Okay, what are we working with here? Shots and passes, high danger passes, rush off. We'll start here. This is zone entries leading to scoring chances. This is one of the things I have hammered the Rangers for since they hired Gerard Gallant 3 years ago. The Rangers do not carry the puck into the zone with possession enough and create sustainable offense. So, controlled entries per 60. That means skating into the zone with possession of the puck. Entries leading to scoring chance just means an entry that eventually had a scoring chance. Controlled entries per 60. You see looking left to right. The only players that generated more controlled entries per 60 last year were Jack Eichel and Jack Hughes. Nick Ehlers is an elite transition player. This is one of the best transition players in the entire world. 21 controlled entries per 60. Now, you do realize you don't play 60 minutes a game. You play like 16 to 20, depending on special teams and that type of thing. So you're going to put that number to about a third. 7 controlled entries per 60 is a lot. Look where the best Ranger is. Vinny Trocheck, 15. 6 less per 60, so like 2 less, 1 less per game. Nick Ehlers is all the way over here. He's here with Jack Eichel, Barzal, Jack Hughes. That's probably McKinnon. Yeah, man. Mark Scheifele being there is interesting because I don't think of Scheifele being fast. Duchesne being there is interesting. Troy Terry being there is interesting. But Ehlers has a long track record of being a good transition player. Entries. Winnipeg. You see, Nick Ehlers is up here with Jack Eichel, Jack Hughes, Barzal. This is probably McKinnon. Yeah. Connor Bedard being that high this early is very encouraging. Very curious to Burakovsky, Pasta, Clayton Keller, Leon. This is an elite tier of player here. You know, Michael McLeod being there is crazy. A, because loser, sex criminal, and also B, he doesn't play a lot, so that number gets juiced crazy because of the ratio. But Nick Ehlers is an elite transition player. Carry-in percentage, 73%. So 73% of the time he carries it in and then he dumps it in the other 27%. Let's look where the Rangers are. Trocheck is here. Ehlers is here. Lafreniere is here. The rest of the team, Panarin, Hedel, Vesey, Mika, Cooley, Kreider, Kakko, like, if you can't tell how much help this type of addition to the team would be, I don't see it, man. We can do rush versus forecheck as well. Just you see Ehlers here, shots off of forecheck cycle. This is something the Rangers need, and shots off of the rush. Ideally, you want to be in this top right corner. This is probably Panarin, right? Yeah. Panarin was one of the highest rate shooters in the entire league last year. It makes sense he's up here. Ehlers is here. This is probably Jack Hughes. That's probably McKinnon. This is probably Eichel. Sid? Yeah. Barzal. These are really good players. Kachuk, Forsberg, Duchesne, McDavid, Draisaitl. These are all really good hockey players. And look, Hedel's here. He didn't play enough last year. So to answer your question, Anton, about Ehlers, he's really good. I would be perfectly fine with Nick Ehlers being the first line right wing next year. I know that's going to be a tough sell for the Larry Brooks of the world and the people who think size is the most important thing, but Nick Ehlers is very good. I think Nick Ehlers is very, very good. Andrew Gallegos, the only way the Rangers are improving is through trades. Trouba needs to go through a trade or a buyout. Yes, that's why I imagine the Rangers are not doing anything right now. I imagine the Rangers are trying to find the way to facilitate making Trouba go away. And it sucks that's the case. You don't want to be an asshole about it, but at the same time, Chris Drury's running a business here. This isn't like a dad firing his son from the ice cream shop from his summer job. This is the National Hockey League. Jacob Trouba gets paid $8 million per year. Jacob Trouba's career earnings by the time he retires are going to be in the ballpark of $60 to $70 million because he'll probably get one more contract after the one he's currently on expires. $70 million puts you in the top 1% of wealth of people who have ever lived in the history of humanity. We are talking about hundreds of billions of people in the history of humanity, and Jacob Trouba's in the top 1% of those people in terms of wealth ever. In the history of history, top 1% of wealth ever. And I'm supposed to care that, oh no, I thought the Rangers liked me. Delusional. Utterly delusional. And yes, Raphael, I agree. Drury didn't do his homework. He's doing it right now. Everyone else is outside having fun playing it for the summer. Yes, that is how I am interpreting today's events. Now, as we've said since I jumped on an hour and 20 minutes ago, the Rangers very well, Ehlers, Zegras, Buchnevich, Kempe. There are Ryan Hartman. There are a ton of forwards out there the Rangers could trade for. The thing is, you're going to have to give stuff up. Do you have the conviction to trade a Ryan Lindgren, a Brennan Othman, Brett Berard, Zach Jones? Do you have the conviction? I would love to see the Rangers turn Capo Caco, a first, and one more player into Rutger McGrody. That's the type of swing I need to see. You saw the Capitals, who know they're not winning the Stanley Cup, just make a crazy swing for Jacob Chychrun. Made a crazy swing for Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Rangers need to take a swing. And look, I'm worried. The last time Drury took a big swing, his additions were Barclay Goodrow, Patrick Nemeth, Ryan Reeves, and Sammy Blais. We still have yet to overcome that trade. We have still yet to overcome that trade because they still don't have a first-line right wing. I do need another cup of coffee. Yeah, that's fair, Chris. Trocheck was a relatively big swing, but Jonathan Drouin returns to Colorado. Okay, so yeah, the Rangers were being used for leverage once again. Danton Heinen, 2 years, $2.25 million to Vancouver. That's not a bad idea. As somebody I see on Twitter, Brett AM, Nick Robertson was jerked around all season by Toronto. Type of skill set I could see Rangers wanting. Yes, I agree. Alex Barré-Boulet, 1 year, $7.75 to Montreal. Sure. Drouin, 1 year deal to stay in Colorado. Red Wings have agreed to terms with defenseman William Lagesson, 1 year, $775K. Cam Talbot, 2 by 2.5 in Detroit. I feel you, Raphael. If this wasn't work, I would not be sitting here right now. I wish I was doing something else more productive because right now, me and Chris Drury are doing the same thing today. We're sitting here waiting and watching the news come in because we can't make any moves happen. Oh man, it really seems like Jeff Skinner might be the play, unfortunately. And it's not like I dislike Jeff Skinner. Like Jeff Skinner as a person is obviously very funny, but also the Rangers are not fun. The Rangers can't be given the responsibility of Jeff Skinner because they wouldn't let him do between two stalls. Roman Yossi and Brady Shady on the same team is deeply unfair and a public safety hazard. Very real. Very real. Two very handsome gentlemen. Um, Cam Talbot. Anything. Heard from source close to the team, Sharks have made a run at extending Joe Pavelski's career. Whether it's an on or ice role for unsure, but they'd like him to be a mentor to Celebrini. Sure, okay. Hmm. Um. Yeah, sure. Let's take a look at Toronto. So this is what Toronto's working with right now. I think they're keeping Marner. I think they're going to work out an extension, and everyone is going to grow up or throw a temper tantrum, one of the two. Nyes, I liked his game last year. I think he's going to be a pretty solid NHL middle sixer. Tavares is kind of the weak link, but he's still not bad. Nylander had a really good year last year, but this bottom six, Dewar, Domi, Camp, Reeves, it's pretty stinky. Morgan Riley, I like Lilligren. I don't think he's a first pair guy right now. McCabe is fine. Chris Tanev is very good, but you got to worry about his health. He's always playing hurt. How long you can actually milk him and actually use him before he's going to have to medically retire. And then Simone Benoit, he's fine. I don't mind him, but this Leafs team, this is Brad Treliving's big swing is Oliver Ekman Larson and Chris Tanev. Not really selling me. Ooh, I forgot France and Belgium are playing soccer right now. I probably should be watching the Euros because I've been having a lot of fun watching soccer during the day. What do we got here? I think trades are the way. I've seen a lot of people coming to that consensus pretty quickly, but the Rangers very clearly are going to have to work the phones, and they don't have a ton of assets. That's the other thing here that we should talk about. Cap friendly. They don't have a two next year, this upcoming year, or the year after. They don't have a three. They have no fours for the next 3 years. They have an extra fifth from Ryan Reeves, but they don't have a lot of assets. They've traded away so many picks over the last few years, and they're their team control young guys like Brett Berard is maybe worth a fourth round pick. Othman might be worth a second round pick. Sikora maybe a third round pick. They don't have any real blue chippers other than Gabe Perreault. And if they weren't going to trade Gabe Perreault for Jake Gensel, they're not trading him for anyone. It's that simple. Gensel's better than anybody you're going to get in a trade unless it's somebody we're not thinking of. Like if the crazy insider, not even the insiders, if the dumb hockey media people are actually going to manifest Brady Tkachuk to the Rangers, sure, trade whoever you want. I don't care. But barring Brady Tkachuk, which I don't think is happening, by the way, it's going to be mid-tier guys. It's going to be a Jeff Skinner. It's going to be an Anthony Duclair. And there's nothing wrong with those guys, but those guys are not fundamentally changing the team. They are not making the team significantly better. Oh man, the Bruins are really going to be stinky. They're really expensive. I see Mike. I want to Duclair over Roslovic. Me too. I was interested in Duclair. I like Duclair's game. He's good in a straight line and he shoots. It's not bad. He would work. I think he's more of a second or a third line right wing than a first line right wing, especially because Zibanejad and Kreider don't carry people at 5-on-5. But I'd have no qualm with bringing in Anthony Duclair. Jonathan Drouin, 1 year, 2.5 to stay in Colorado. Solid. That's a tidy piece of business. He'll play well playing with McKinnon and their boys, so that matters. Now you see why Barry Trotz wanted to leave the Islanders. You gave him free reign, and in 2 straight off seasons, he's made that team. He's put a lot of work into that team. It would take Lou Lamoriello 10 years to make all the moves Barry Trotz has made in the last 2 off seasons. You think about trading for McDonough, trading for Ryan O'Reilly, Chris Byrne, Chris saying Kings got Fogle. Damn. Oh, that's another guy I was interested in. Fogel's good. I like Fogle. He was pretty impressive in the conference final and the Stanley Cup final for Edmonton. I like Brendan Dillon for the Devils. That's a good fit. The Devils overhauled their team. They really overhauled their defense, and I know they were linked in on Marcia or whatever. They probably need one more forward, but they should be able to find one more forward by the trade deadline. That's doable. Chris Drury, Chris Drury, and Lou Lamoriello seen asleep. Lip, who are the Rangers going to sign? There's no one left. Probably Duclair, probably Jeff Skinner, somebody in that tier that probably needs a change of scenery, and the Rangers are going to hope they can manufacture more offense out of them. Yeah, there's a lot of money getting thrown around today. It's kind of crazy. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. The Rangers are going to have to trade. It's that simple. I know everybody gets excited for July 1st because free agency opens. They don't have that luxury anymore. They do not have that luxury anymore because they weren't ready. Somebody in the chat had made the comparison earlier that the Rangers stayed out and played for 3 straight days, and now school's out and they're in summer school while everyone else is out having fun playing basketball at the park, going swimming in a pool. The Rangers are sitting here, and yeah, I agree. Somebody replied to a tweet I had just said about Jeff Skinner, but Jeff Skinner's a name, and he doesn't play in 2 out of 3 zones and doesn't forecheck. Skinner is a lab-made Rorschach test for Ranger fans and executives. I agree. I just think that's the type of guy they're going to be looking at now because they don't have the cap space. Mike, wonder if we could pry Booch away from St. Louis. I would love to. The Rangers definitely have the assets to make it happen. And yes, state tax is a problem for the Rangers and Islanders, but it's not nearly as big of a problem as the insiders like to make it seem because they pay taxes where they get paid. You have to Google it. It's called jock tax, I think. You pay the tax when you get paid based on what state you're in when you get paid. Jared Barton, bring in Teravainen. The Rangers were reportedly interested in doing that. Teravainen signed with Chicago. I want to say like maybe 40 minutes ago. I think it was 4 by 3.5, if I remember correctly. You know what? We'll take a sideline. We can talk about this because this is interesting. So this is an article about athletes paying taxes. When football players for the Jaguars who owe no income tax in the state of Florida travel to Kansas City for a playoff game, they accumulated an income tax bill for Kansas City and the state of Missouri. This burden is known as the jock tax. Professional athletes owe a portion of their salary to most states and cities they visit, even for a single day. A municipal corporation shall not tax the compensation paid to a non-resident individual for personal services performed by the individual and the municipal corporation or 12 or fewer days in a calendar year unless one of the following applies. The individual is a professional entertainer, professional athlete, promoter of entertainment or sports, or an entertainment of such a promoter, as all may be reasonably defined by the municipal corporation. You have to pay taxes on your stuff. So, blah, blah, blah. So yes, the Rangers and Islanders are at a disadvantage in comparison to the Lightning or the Panthers, but they do still have to pay tax on all the road games. Yes, for the 41 home games, it does matter. For the road games, it's a little bit different. So trading for a guy in Florida will have him pay no state tax, and if he's signed by the Rangers, he pays it. Yes, in theory, yes. Well, no, they pay based on when they get there, not when they acquire them. When they get there, when they're there for a game, they pay tax on whatever they're getting paid for that game prorated. So yeah, it's a complicated subject. This is not something that I am particularly well versed in. I'm not a tax attorney, but I do know that they do have to pay a little bit they do have to pay a little bit of their tax based on where they are for a given game. We got anything? Fogle, 3 years to LA, 3 million range. Yeah, that's somebody I would have been interested in for the Rangers. It's unfortunate, but couldn't make it happen. 30 minutes into free agency, 46 contracts, cap hit $142 million, contract years 132, total contract dollars in the first 30 minutes $545 million. It's a lot of money. Noah Gregor has signed with the Senators. You think Natchez resigns with Carolina? Yes, because I think they thought they were keeping Gensel 100%, and that fell apart very quickly, from what I understand. I didn't get a chance to read Corey Lavallette's article in The Athletic about how that deal fell apart, because from what I understand, they were in agreement. The Hurricanes and Gensel, they had an agreement. They had ironed out the money. It was just about making the way the payments were structured, whether it was going to be base salary or signing bonus. And then it fell apart all very quickly. So maybe you want to point at Tom Dundon and say they were playing hardball again with a star player. They ultimately got a third round pick for his rights. Tampa Bay gave him a long-term extension. I think right as of this exact moment I'm speaking, they probably keep Natchez because they thought they were going to keep Gensel and they were going to trade Natchez to get stuff to replace their defense that they lost, because they did lose Pesci and Shea. They did extend Jacob Slavin today, a reasonable number. He's good, but you lost two of your four best defensemen. You don't have, what do we got now? Elliot Friedman. Noah Phillip, 1 year, 2-way to the Oilers. That's a depth signing. That's a big day, man. The Predators added Brady, Shea, Marcia Show, and Stamkos. Yeah. I think Carolina's plan fell apart. Real straightforward. I think they kind of thought, oh, we'll keep Gensel, we'll trade Natchez for a defenseman, and we'll retool our roster. And then Gensel, for whatever reason, he didn't like what he was hearing and asked to be, can I go to get traded to Tampa Bay? Because that's where I'm going to sign. At least if I tell you, you get a draft pick out of it. And Carolina has done a nice job over the years of getting draft picks and turning those picks into roster players. But last year they pushed their chips in. Derek Forbort, 1 year, 1.5 million with Vancouver. At least the Rangers didn't make that mistake. Michael Amadio, 3 by 2 and a 6 to Ottawa. So, some people for you to think about if you're a Ranger fan. Jared Barton, Ian Cole would have been nice. I had heard the Rangers were interested in him from somebody a few weeks ago, but very clearly not interested enough, I guess. This is where we're at. So, Kevin Hayes still in the mix. Excuse me, Kevin Hayes no longer in the mix. Shane Pinto reportedly out there. Nick Bukestad possibly out there. Jake Evans, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Michael Backlund. Mangiapane was already traded. Adrian Kempe, I'd be very interested in. Brandon Tanev would be a third line option, not a first line. Podkolzin, this is purely an upside play. Buchnevich, obviously we know he can play at a high level. Ryan Hartman, I don't know if he's a middle sixer who's occasionally overperformed, or he's a top sixer who is consistently underperformed. Konechny, I love his game. I think he would be a breath of fresh air for the Rangers because he's a good forward checker. And then Alex Tuck, who the Rangers had reportedly made an overture towards to the Sabres around the trade deadline, but ultimately weren't able to pull that through. Chris Bernhardt asks, well, I'll ask the question, why the hell would Nate just want to stay, being dangled like bait on a hook for 2 years, and now he's their rebound? I don't know if I'd want to be treated like that. Money talks. Ultimately, if they give him the extension he wants and a somewhat promise of ice time, I do think he's going to end up staying there. I think it's not a guarantee, but I do think it's going to happen. Per Frank Saravelli, Flames circling in on Jake Bean deal. That's, of course, his dad is the vice chairman of the team. So that makes sense. The Flames do need some defensemen. Oliver Chillington, that's a name I would like to see the Rangers invested in. I know only like 30 games played over the last 2 years. He stayed in Sweden during 2021, 2022, and then 2022, 2023. He came back over in the fall last year. He's definitely a little rusty, but he doesn't have a lot of miles because he just hasn't played. And you ride him in the mix, you put him in the mix with Jones. I think it would be a good thing if that was more of an open competition for that last spot as opposed to just anointing someone for it. Um, I agree, Chris. That's why I like Konechny a lot. He is a miserable person. He is a prick. The Rangers need a prick or two on this team. It's one of the Rangers' real issues. Their best players are not nasty people. They are not Kucherov. They are not Kachuk. They're not Verhage. They're not out there to hurt people. Kulikov with Florida official. Predators have a deal to terms with goaltender Scott Wedgwood on 2-year deal. If you want to go trade for Askarov. That's what I'd say. That is true. Waivers do open in an hour. We will see if Jacob Trouba's on there. I will keep going probably for at least another hour. Might have to take a break somewhere in there to go to the bathroom and grab another coffee. Jimmy G, that's why I wanted Bertuzzi. Don't know if they had any interest in him, but that's the type of player we need more. I would have been okay with Bertuzzi. I don't know if I would have been okay with the number he got from Chicago, but he does have a certain type of skill set that the Rangers are lacking. But I would say to get familiar with this board. I would say look at the trade candidates that are out there and get familiar because that is where the Rangers are probably going to be looking to improve their team because free agency, we're moving. We're only a half hour officially. Of course, we all know everybody's tampering and it doesn't matter that they're tampering, but we're kind of in a position where unless the Rangers are playing like 4D chess, if there's a player we're not thinking of in free agency that they want to take a shot on, I had mentioned Oliver Chillington. If you want to gamble on Max Pacioretty, whatever. Yeah, I see my Devils fan friends talking about it on the timeline. I like what the Devils have done. They've overhauled their defense. They've upgraded their goalie room. They have put themselves in a position where if they don't rebound now, you can ask some real questions. Um, Sean Walker to Carolina. Okay, that's their Brady Shea that's their Brett Pesce replacement. Okay, that makes sense. I had Sean Walker on the free agency tab. I only thought Sean Walker was doable for the Rangers if Trouba was already gone and they weren't sold on Schneider as the 2 right D. But if they want maximum flexibility, you trade Trouba, you keep Schneider there, and then you bring in a depth guy. You bring in the Ian Cole of the world. You bring in the Kevin Shattenkirk or the Kulikov equivalent for that kind of spot. I want the Rangers to make Lafreniere into that. He's had flashes of being a prick. I like, look, man, love Lafreniere's game. I'm very glad he finally got to break through. I'm very glad he had the requisite statistical breakthrough on top of the play that had been there. And that's the thing, man. The talent was there. The talent was there. It just needed to flourish. So who should we talk about now? We can talk about the Capitals. Sure, that's not a bad idea. Here we go. So you add Mangiapane, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nick Jensen. No, they traded Nick Jensen to Ottawa. What is this? It doesn't have the Chikrin or Matt Roy yet, but the Capitals got better today. Unquestionably, the Capitals got better today. I like Rasmus Sandin. I like Ferravari. John Carlson is pretty much only offense at this point, but this forward group, it's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. Washington definitely got better today. That's something the Rangers probably have to worry about, that their regular season games against Washington are going to be a little bit more annoying than they already were. All right, let's go back over to the timeline. Do I have a new notification from Elliot Friedman? No, I don't. Hmm. How do you keep him off of power play one? Feels like they might have to split both of top lines into their own unit. I don't know. It's a valid question. I think there's a world where they do that. I think there's a world where Lafreniere just gets the shaft again and he has to continue being on the second power play because they have 2 years of results of that 5-person permutation of Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Panarin, and Fox, and teams don't change things that work. It's part of the reason the Rangers refuse. Excuse me. It's part of the reason the Rangers refuse to address some of their major issues is they have good regular season results and they think of the playoffs as an outlier. It is very funny. Grizzlick 1.27 1 times 2.75 to stay in Pittsburgh. I'm enjoying watching the Ranger fans who have been going back and forth on whether or not the Rangers know what they're doing a lot because it's fun, as opposed to just taking the neutral position of we don't know, so stop trying to act like, oh, it's a disaster or oh, it's great. I don't think the Rangers were ever seriously in on Patrick Kane. I think they probably were interested in Stamkos, but they didn't have the room at the moment to make the deal work because they're still being held up by Trouba. We had talked about it right when we opened the stream because the Stamkos to Nashville transaction was made pretty much official within the first 10 minutes of going live. So I imagine the Rangers were interested in Stamkos, but there just wasn't a way to facilitate it. Like they could have signed him and then gone over the cap and not signed Schneider or Lindgren until they were able to move Trouba, but they got to figure it out. Stamkos says he and Tampa Bay tried to work something out, but it didn't fall short because of a lack of trying. Okay. The Bruins will play the Florida Panthers on October 8th for their home opener. They will be in the building for the Panthers banner raising. That's tough. Tyson Jost, 775,000 to Carolina. Thomas Nosek, 775,000 to Florida. Chris says Nosen to Devils 3 times 2.75. Yeah, that's not terrible. Minnesota Wild signed Devin Shore, 1-year deal, 775,000. Oilers are in the mix on Jeff Skinner. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk Shesterkin. Sure, we got to do something in the time while we wait for new transactions to drop. Let's talk Shesterkin. All right, so share cap friendly. Okay. So this is where we're at right now. This year just ended. This is the season that's about to kick in. 5.6 million is like, hang on, 5.6 divided by 80. It's like 8% of the salary cap. It's about 8% of the salary cap. So with that in mind, and the salary cap about to go up to 88 and a half, Shesterkin has given Shesterkin has given the Rangers excess value pretty much every season of this contract. It sucks that first year, 2021, 2022, he had the best year like ever. And the best the Rangers could do was win 2 games in the conference final, but I digress. The Rangers are not in a position where they can walk away from Igor Shesterkin. There is going to be a whole lot of boliviating over the next few weeks from people in and around the organization and people who just do hockey content that the Rangers can't pay Shesterkin $11.5, $12 million per year. They can pay Shesterkin whatever they want. The question is not, can the Rangers afford to pay Shesterkin this amount of money? The question is, if you're going to trade Shesterkin or let him walk in free agency, which they wouldn't do, they would trade him before they would let him walk, you're going to have to fundamentally restructure the entire team. You are going to have to remodel the way you try and win hockey games because the Rangers are so fundamentally developed and organized around their defining principle as a team this century is having the best or one of the 5 best goalies in the world be the difference to make up for the mistakes so their high leverage players can take risks and try and make plays, even if they're difficult, even if they're risky. And it's a real unfortunate place to be in because the Rangers need more flexibility. They do not have the means of making more flexibility. That's kind of the issue here. Stefan Nosen, 3 times 275. Stars have agreed to 3 years, $1 million with Casey DeSmith. DeBrusque, yeah. Slavin Burns, Orlov Chatfield, Sean Walker, Brandon Marr. That's fine. It's not as good as the one they had last year, but it's not bad. And the undercurrent of all of this, the Shesterkin discourse, is the team's going to be very different in 2 years. Trouba, Panarin, Kreider. UFAs, if they don't, they're going to trade Trouba or they're going to buy him out. We'll see if he's going on waivers in like 40 minutes or so. But once they do that, Panarin and Kreider expire in 2 years. Then the team shifts. It becomes Zibanejad, Trocheck, Lafreniere, Gabe Perreault, Adam Fox, Andre Miller, and maybe Shesterkin. But Shesterkin, Panarin, Kreider, Trouba all expire in 2 years. You lose that. You lose Shesterkin. You lose Kreider. You lose Panarin. You're not serious. I don't know if I want to get into bed with 35-year-old Artemi Panarin or if I want to give Kreider a long-term extension, or an extension, I should say, in 2 years from now. The team's going to be very different 2 years from now. It will be Adam Fox and Alexis Lafreniere's team. You will be dealing with the backswing of Zibanejad and Trocheck's contracts, where those guys, the physical deterioration, it's not here yet, but it's never too far away. You cannot just bank on guys continuing to maintain a certain level of production once you get past 30. Once you get past 30, it's year to year with these guys. Jack Eichel, yeah, he's a free agent in 2 years. Yeah, the Rangers are going to be in the bargain bin now. It's guys like Skinner. It's guys like Duclair. I don't think they're going to be in on Adam Henrique. I don't know if Adam Henrique would be willing to come here. I know there's real, I don't want to call it beef because that's silly. These are professionals, but I don't know if he's going to be willing to come to the Rangers. I know that was a little bit of the conjecture last year in regards to the deadline from the Ducks is Henrique going to accept the trade to come to the Rangers because of his track record and because of his feelings from his time as a Devil? I don't know. If it's on the table, Henrique as the third line center is fine, but that's not raising your ceiling. Maybe Hedl as a right wing unlocks something that we haven't seen before from Zibanejad and Kreider that could make the team better. But until then, you are dealing with speculation. The Rangers are not. Kings are playing the Sabres, their home opener. Zach Aston Reese signs with the Vegas Golden Knights, 1 year, $775,000. As crazy as it's been in the last couple of days and the lack of sleep and the nerves and that uneasy feeling, once we made that call to Barry Trotz and the Predators that we were coming, that feeling went away and it's been pure excitement. Steven Stamkos on joining the Nashville Predators. Okay. There's Lindholm officially with the Bruins. Cam Talbot with Detroit. Yeah, the Rangers really missed a moment. They have got to keep their books clear for next year now. Chandler Stevenson to sign 7-year deal with Seattle Kraken. Okay, sure. I like Chandler Stevenson, but he's a little bit old now. He's got a lot of miles. I don't know if going out and trying to recreate the Barclay Goodrow signing, and granted, Chandler Stevenson is 3 times the player Barclay Goodrow is. I don't know if that would have solved the Rangers' issues. We got anything? I mostly want to keep streaming till 2 o'clock just to see if Trouba goes on waivers or not. I don't think he will because they don't want to embarrass him because the Rangers do care about that, frankly, and it would not be a good reflection on the Rangers if they did that after doing that to Gaudreau. And look, I don't actually care. You should not care. But that does have repercussions. That does make the team look a certain way. And unless you win, like Vegas did, people will be antsy about you. They will be uncomfortable about your team. And it's difficult because you need to strike that balance. You need to do what's best for the team, but you also need to treat the guys like people. And it's difficult to juggle those. You think about the scene in Moneyball where David Justice is asking Jonah Hill, how come Billy doesn't travel with the team? And he says, oh, it's so I don't get to know them too well, so it's easier to trade them. There's the official Arvidsson signing for the Oilers. I do like that. That'll be good to talk about on Locked On Oilers. What do we got here, friends? Come on. Brandon Duhaime officially. All right, let's circle back to the Rangers. Okay. This is the depth chart right now. Casey asks, with contracts, what I've taken so far, I would have sucked it up and given Marchessault that contract because the money's not bad. The term is not great, but the money's not bad. I think I would have been in on that. I would have done Foegele. I would have done Warren Foegele. But other than that, the Stamkos contract, it's not great. Montour's contract is not great. I got to see what Sean Walker's contract at Carolina is. Maybe that's something I would have been in on. Bertuzzi feels a little expensive. Domi feels a little expensive. But again, free agency is always expensive, unfortunately. So it's really difficult. There just aren't a lot of great contracts out there that get given out in free agency. Chandler Stevenson, 7 years times 6.25 to Seattle. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I like Chandler Stevenson, but I'm not giving a third liner a 7-year contract. The Rangers just tried doing that with Gaudreau, and it did not work out well for them. I like DeBrusk. He's a good player, but I don't think he's a fit for the Rangers. Chris says, I think I would have done Trevu because the term is low. Yeah, Teravainen would have been fine. DeBrusk would have been fine. Like, none of these guys we're talking about are bad players. The problem becomes the contract. And that's the issue when you're in such a rigid league where there's not enough cap space to go around, where you can't maintain as talented a team as you want. So you need to prioritize. I like Teravainen. I like DeBrusk. I like Gensel. I like Stamkos. I like Marchessault. All of those guys are talented hockey players. The problem becomes, are we getting value or excess value on a contract? If we give Marchessault, whatever it was, $5.5 million for 5 years, $6 million for 5 years, whatever it was, what are the chances we get more than $6.5 million of value per season? And then the DeBrusk deal, same boat. I think DeBrusk is a solid player. I think he could flirt with 30 goals. Robert, have the Rangers done anything? They signed Sam Carrick to be the Barclay Goodrow replacement to a 3-year deal for $1 million per year. He'll be the fourth line center opening night. He could very well be Nick Bonino and off the team by December. Don't know yet, but yes. The Rangers are probably waiting for the next wave of guys. They are waiting for Jeff Skinner. They are waiting for Duclair. They're in that bin right now. They want to have flexibility because they need to pay Lafreniere and they need to pay Miller next year. Max Pacioretty's name is out there. That's not a terrible one. Daniel Sprong is out there. I would have been interested in that. Daniel Sprong wouldn't be bad. Yeah, Robert. Unfortunately, the Rangers are in the Bonino Pitlick Wheeler bargain bin, unless they make a trade. And that's really been the thesis of the conversation so far is that the Rangers, if they want to make a big move, it's going to have to be a trade because the big names We must be doing pretty well on stream because we're getting bots in here suggesting to watch The Last Samurai by Tom Cruise. Yeah, Casey. Ehlers would be great. Probably my first choice out of everybody that they could get in a trade. And I'm a big Zegras. Wait, no, that one. And I'm a big Zegras guy. I would really like Trevor Zegras on the Rangers, but Ehlers is better. Yeah, Jimmy. Tarasenko is out there. I don't think I'd be in on that. Max Jones to the Bruins. That's a lot of money for Chandler Stevenson. What's Chandler Stevenson's career high in points? Like 50? 65, 64, won the Stanley Cup. He's 29, turning 30, $6.25 million per year. He would probably need to be a 55-ish point player per year for that value to maintain. Yeah, I think that's where we're at now, friends. It's Ehlers, it's Zegras, it's Ryan Hartman, Alex Tuck. I think it's a trade, not free agents, because the only free agents that are out there now are bargain bin guys. And I have no problem with one or two of those. But based on the way the season went last year, you would think there would have been some initiative to really improve the team. That's so much money for Zadorov. A friend of the show, Ethan, is saying there's conjecture the Islanders might be in on Anthony Duclair. Anthony Duclair played for Patrick Waugh in junior hockey, so good chance I could see that reunion. Did Trouba really have a broken ankle, and did management know about it? Yes. I'll answer both questions. So number one, yes, Trouba really did have a broken ankle. I heard that the day he got pulled from the lineup that he had broken his ankle, but that it wasn't going to get announced for a few days. And then he said it on breakup day. And yes, the team knew about it because he went to the team doctor. The team doctor has to clear you because I believe, and I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure he went on LTIR for the 2 weeks he was injured so they could call up another player. But I'm pretty sure to get off of LTIR, you have to pass some clearance tests, and he did. Yes, I do think the Trouba stuff has held them back today. Technically speaking, no. The Rangers could have signed, Marchessault and gone over the cap ceiling. In the offseason, you're allowed to go 10% over, and they could have taken care of Schneider and Lindgren in a month whenever they were able to finally trade Trouba. But I do think it's lingering over the entire situation. It's a lot of money for Chandler Stevenson. It's a lot of money for Nikita Zadorov. Oh man, I need to get some more. I need to get some more coffee. I'm tired. Last night was a long night, man. I didn't get home from Long Island till like 2 a.m. I am absolutely exhausted. And then Saturday night stayed up till like 2 in the morning. I have too much fun. Mike, I agree with you. I don't think the Rangers' issues are free agent solutions. I think the Rangers need to trade. I think the Rangers need to turn some older guys into some younger guys. I think the Oilers, excuse me. I think the Rangers are kind of in the most difficult position. Sam Steele, 1 year, $1.2 million to Dallas. Okay. And yes, Mike, he will need some trade magic, Chris Drury. Yeah, I can't see there being much to do in Idaho at night. I understand, Casey. Play more Valorant. Oh, don't love Chikrin's. I don't love Jacob Chikrin's newfound proximity to the Capitol building. That is a good point. There's the Slavin extension. So some of the names still available. Wenberg, Skinner, Roslovic, Henrique, Tarasenko, Anthony Beauvillier, Anthony Duclair, Shane Gostisbehere, Tyson Berry, Nate Schmidt, Matt Dumba, Oliver Chillington. Rangers could be in on a few of those names. Casey DeSmith deal officially to Dallas. Eric Comrie back to the Jets. Chandler Stevenson, speedy complimentary playmaker, but not really a driver himself, and his skating and passing metrics fell off. Not physical or involved defensively. Yeah, I mean, he's not an individual play driver. I'd take Tarasenko on a 1-year deal. I mean, realistically, the Rangers are probably going to have to do 1-year deals that are a little juiced in money because they need their money next summer because they got to take care of Lafreniere and Miller and Shesterkin. Garnet Hathaway, 2 years, $2.4 million per year to stay with the Flyers. What do we got? Garnet Hathaway and Casey DeSmith. Okay. How many players that are worth it are going to want 1-year deals? That's the question. Somebody like Tarasenko, who's probably playing year to year in terms of do I want to keep playing or retiring, I could see taking a 1-year deal. Someone like Duclair, who's been just jerked around his entire career, he probably wants some stability. He probably would like to stay somewhere for more than one season. Jeff Skinner, I could see him being willing to take a 1-year deal to bet on himself. It's why the Edmonton thing makes sense. If he goes to Edmonton, he can make a lot of money. Forbidden Door was very fun, Matt. Thank you for asking. Main event was great. Osprey's incredible. Him and Sorv put on a banger. The ladder match for the TNT title was great. Shout out Mark Briscoe. That was for the love of the game ass bumps. That was a really fun time. I'm really glad I ended up going. But yeah, no, that's really the trade-off, Casey. You want money or you want term. The Rangers are in a position where they could offer pretty much anyone as much as they want for just one season. That's why Skinner, Tarasenko, Duclair, Gostisbehere, that tier of player is doable for them because it's 1 year. I don't think people realize how much money they are going to need for Shesterkin, Miller, and Lafreniere next summer. I don't think people realize that. And then they'll have the opportunity to talk about an extension with Kreider, with Panarin, if Trouba's still here for some godforsaken reason. That opportunity for an extension with those guys will be there. Ryan Lomberg, 2x2 in Calgary. That guy hurt Jimmy Vesey. I don't know why nobody talked about that. He's an asshole. Screw Ryan Lomberg. Matt Dumba to Dallas. Okay. That's a good point. The Capitals could have Oshie and Nick Backstrom both retire and LTIR them and make some more space. Sucker already gone. Oh no, Chris, I don't think they're going anywhere. I mean, I think talking about what their next contracts after next year are going to look like. I assume Panarin would be willing to take, less per year. Same thing with Kreider. I think the Rangers, I don't know. I really don't know what the plan is at this point. If it's to stay as liquid as possible for Eichel, for McDavid, for Draisaitl, sure. But that's putting a lot of eggs in the basket. You can actually pull that off. Yeah, seriously. The parade was yesterday. Wait, what's today? Today's Monday. The parade was Saturday. Crazy. Um, What do we got? Where can we go now? Let's go. This is a good conversation. We can talk about this. Okay. So this is all three zones from before when we were talking about Ehlers. Let's do team stuff. Because I want to illustrate what I'm talking about when I say the Rangers' fundamental issues. So this is shots versus passes. Gaudreau, Bonino, Pitlick, VZ, whatever. Those aren't guys you really need. Shots per 60. That's all. These are all above average rates. Even Blake Wheeler, who stunk objectively last year, above average shots per 60. Primary shot assist per 60. Hedel, Lafreniere, Kreider, Trocheck. Makes sense. It makes sense. Panarin being up here with the elite guys. That's probably McKinnon. That's probably Kucherov. Matthews, yeah. Sid, yeah. This upper tier, Panarin had one of the best seasons of anybody in the entire league last year. But you see, Hedel's here. He only played, 10 regular season games. Good line. Zibanejad all the way over here. You would like to see Zibanejad either shooting more or setting up more because he can do both. It's frustrating. All right, let's do scoring chances. So this is scoring chances up going vertically and scoring chance assist. So passing to an assist. Zibanejad again shooting more. Pitlick, Kakko, Bonino shooting more than facilitating. Gaudreau not doing a whole lot of either. Bonino not doing a whole lot of either. Blake Wheeler not doing a lot of shooting, but doing some passing. VZ doing some passing. Trocheck doing some passing. Panarin, obviously. Panarin's in the good group. That's McDavid, that's Draisaitl. That's probably Forsberg. Oh, Tommy Novak. Good for Tommy Novak. Kachuk, yeah. Barzal, yeah. Kaprizov, Kagel, Kucherov, Crosby, yeah. It's a really good grouping of guys. High danger passes is going to be fun because you're going to see Panarin. Yeah, you're going to see Panarin and Lafreniere up here. Yeah, Lafreniere and Panarin were cooking last year. So was Trocheck. Kreider, the best of the rest. Pretty much nothing of quality from their bottom six, but you're not expecting a whole lot of quality off of their bottom six. Rush versus forecheck. This tells you what you need to know. Forecheck cycle. Cooley, Lafreniere, Panarin. The only players above average rate of shots off of forecheck per cycle. Everybody else below average. And rush offense is not bad. We take rush offense. Rush offense is good. There are good players down here. The problem is this offense is not as sticky when it comes to the playoffs. It is harder to generate offense in the postseason off of the rush because it does become contingent on the other team making mistakes and you being able to get out in the speed. Matt Dumba to Dallas. Anything else? Rush offense. All right. So I'm going to take a break. Actually, you know what? I'll be fair. I'm going to get off. Andrew and I are going to come back around later tonight. We're going to do a normal episode of Liberty Blue. We'll unpack what the Rangers have or haven't done. And I might jump on in a little bit just to run some shell to keep talking. But I need a break. I need to drink some water. I need to go to the bathroom. I desperately need more coffee. So thank you to everybody who stopped by the stream. Thank you to everybody who was active in the chat. Free agency was fun. The Rangers free agency